So we're on the bottom of Mem Aleph on Beis. We are on the bottom of 41b, the last line, the last few words of the Amud. Basically, Amar Yom Tov. So back in the Mishnah, on the top in the middle of Mem Aleph and Beis, the Mishnah said that on the first day of Yom Tov that fell on Shabbos, the halacha would be that they would take the lulav. So now Rabbi Yosi, that was the Mishnah. Now Rabbi Yosi in the Mishnah he stated that the halacha was that if someone carried by mistake a lulav on Shabbos, then he will not have to bring a chatas, and he's putter from bringing a chatas. Even though usually if one carries in a public domain on Shabbos, if he does it on purpose, it's kares. If he does it by mistakes, he has to bring a chatas. In this case, if it's a lulav, he does not have to bring it. So, Amar Abaye, says Abaye. Now we're on the top of Mem Beis Amar Aleph. Laishanu elish layatza bay. The halacha we only taught this is that he only went out and carried. Avish layatza bay, that he did not fulfill his obligation of lulav yet, because avayatza bay. But if he would fulfill the obligation of lulav, chayiv, he would be chayiv. Now, because the Reisi said the reason why one who carries in the Dal Ramis in the Shusarabim with the lulav is only pater because he was busy with the mitzvah. But if he already fulfilled the mitzvah of lulav, for example, he woke up first thing in the morning and he shook his lulav, he fulfilled his obligation, and then he carried it afterwards, he will be chayiv echatas. And then we ask, how could one ever go ahead and carry in the public domain without fulfilling his obligation? Just by picking it up, you've already fulfilled your obligation. So it will inevitably be, if he is carrying it in the public domain, it must be already fulfilled his obligation when he picked it up in his house. So he should be chayiv. So Amar Abaye kishahafku. No, the way he was carrying it upside down. You only could fulfill the obligation of picking of the arbor minim if you went ahead and you held it upright. That's why we hold it upside down before the bracha, because we want to make the bracha right before we fulfill the obligation, and then we flip it up, then we flip it over and we shake, and that's it. So he was carrying it upside down in the Shusrabim, so he didn't fulfill his obligation yet. That's one answer. Rava Amar, even if you want to tell me he did not flip it, and he's carrying it upright in the right direction, he took it out in a vessel. He's not holding it, so he's carrying it in his bag, so he didn't fulfill his obligation, because he's not holding it with his hands. Now, when now we have a question, we learned this previously, according to Rava, if I hold something through something else, that's still called a taking. So if I have, we said if you take it with a handkerchief and you hold the lulav with the handkerchief, that's still called that you took the lulav, even though you're not holding it with your bare hands. So in this case, yeah.
Isn't there going to be, maybe I just missed it, it's always possible with me, isn't there going to be some sort of dispute over, or wait, I'll mutilate the pronunciation, chatzitza? Isn't there going to be some sort of an argument about that?
So we had that. So we said that if it's a chatzitza...
I knew that.
No, we spoke about it. And we came out that according to him, it's not a problem because I think it was loose,
okay,
right?
Jules, I'm through asking questions as your proxy, so you don't have to be embarrassed, okay?
I'll let you carry over, but
I've got plenty.
you're saying maybe he didn't make it.
Yeah. So it's on Lamazayim and Ralph learned that according to Rava, as long as it's not permanently connected, there won't be a problem when it comes to holding it. So if it's loose, then it's not a problem. So if that's so, then why is Rava giving an answer that why is Rava saying that even if he didn't flip it upside down and he's holding it through something else, but according to Rava it works, that itself will fulfill obligation. So according to Rava, even if he goes outside holding it through something else, still that's called fulfilling his obligation. So immediately the derech kavod. In this way, no, he's talking about like carry over shoulder. That derech kavod. The only way you can fulfill your obligation through another item by holding it is if you hold it in the proper manner, in a honorable manner. But if you go ahead and you throw it into like a basket, and you start walking around, you don't show any respect to it, you cannot fulfill. We will not say that's called a taking through something else. Now, Amar Rafuna, so Rafuna said, Aymer Haya Rabbi Yossi said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, Oyla Sa'ayif Shenimsas Ben Hagafayim, that if I found Oyla, and Oyla is an animal which was supposed to be totally consumed, and it wasn't, and it was left in the wrong part of the Mizbeach, and it was placed the Kesavar Chatos Sa'ayfi. So someone messed up. They took the Oyla, which is supposed to be totally consumed. They placed it with a bunch of the Chatos offerings on the base of Mikdash, on the Mizbeach. V'achla, and a kohen went ahead and ate it by mistake. So kohen thought he's eating a Chatos animal, which is a mitzvah for the kohen to eat the Chatos, and instead he really ate an Oyla. Pater, he's going to be Pater. Now, that's Rafuna, the name of Rabbi Yossi. My Kamash Balan, on that we ask, what's the whole Chiddush? What's the new teaching? The Tabidavar Mitzvah Pater. Hainu that's the case for our Mishnah. One makes a mistake with a article of a mitzvah. If someone makes a mistake with in the realms of a mitzvah is Pater. Whether he walked on the street carrying the Dalet Amos because he thought, or whether he's walking on the street carrying Dalet Amos, or whether he went ahead and he ate the wrong type of carbon. We are on Mem Beis Amud Aleph. We're about around 10 lines up from the Mishnah on Mem Beis Amud Aleph. So, are we asking the question is that we saw in the Mishnah that according to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi clearly says if someone's actively in the middle of a mitzvah or running to do a mitzvah, and he by mistake he makes a transgression, is not mechuyev, he's not obligated to bring a chatas, a sin offering. And then we have a case of Rafuna. Rafuna said in the name of Rabbi Yossi that if they're going ahead and they're they're burning birds on the mizbeach, the oil is supposed to be totally consumed. By mistake, the oil is placed with the chatas. The chatas is supposed to be eaten. A kohen eats the oil thinking it's the chatas, and Rabbi Yossi, Rafuna tells us that it's pater. On that we ask, what's the chiddush? What's the new teaching? If we saw this in our Mishnah, same idea. Busy doing a mitzvah and then make a mistake. You're pater. Now, on that we answer, the same, I might think. Hasam hu deta b'dvar mitzvah, pater. In the case of our Mishnah, he made a mistake. The mistake was, they made a mistake with something to do with the mitzvah. They carried they by mistakes carried their lulav and esrog in the public domain on Shabbos, wanting to fulfill the mitzvah of lulav and esrog. Hainu the avad mitzvah. But at least in the end of the day, he did his mitzvah, right? At the end of the day, he carried it. And he did his mitzvah. He fulfilled his obligation of lulav, but he did it in a very wrong way. By the case of the chatas, when you ate the wrong bird, the tabivar mitzvah of a mitzvah, he did no mitzvah. There was no mitzvah of eating. It's not like he ate the wrong bird, but he still fulfilled the mitzvah of eating the wrong animal. It's not. Let's say he part of the halachas of that when a kohen is doing his avodah, doing the service, he's supposed to have the right type of the right one in mind. You're supposed to have the right. You're supposed to have the right intention. If you have the wrong intention, you might have made a pigel. Now it's not a good example because the truth is that you're not going to be chayav chatas. But the point in this case is that you ate the wrong animal, but there's no mitzvah done. You still have to go back and eat the chatas. So no, even when he doesn't fulfill a mitzvah, but he still made a mistake while trying to fulfill a mitzvah, then there's no a sin offering obligation to bring a sin offering. Meisvei,
you got to do the mitzvah, but he's not penalized.
Correct. Even though in the case of the lulav, he did the mitzvah, but on the way to the mitzvah, he transgressed a carrying on Shabbos, and we don't penalize him. And we don't, and that's one case. But in the next case is even further that in the case that he didn't even fulfill his mitzvah, he was attempting to fulfill the mitzvah, still he does not get penalized and does not have to bring a sin offering. May say, that's the following stira, this the following contradiction. Rabbi Yossi says, Shecheres Tamid, She'enim Mevukar, Kilchasai. What happens if someone shechted the tamid? Now the tamid was the daily offering, brought daily, twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon, and on Shabbos, now on Shabbos the avodah, the work in the Beis Hamikdash, was doicha Shabbos, overrode Shabbos, and therefore they're allowed to do shechita, they're allowed to fulfill all the to fulfill whatever's supposed to be done with a carbon, which typically you're not allowed to do, but in the Beis Hamikdash it was permitted. Now they had to now if they had to inspect the animals to make sure they were kosher. Now, what happens if someone takes an animal, he shechts an animal, which is Asr on Shabbos, unless it's being done in the Beis HaMikdash as a carbon, for the right carbon, and he took the wrong animal, he took an uninspected animal. Usually they took the inspected animals, making sure that there are no mums, making sure that there's nothing wrong with the animal, and they're permitted to be brought on the Mizbeach. But by mistake, this priest took an uninspected animal. Now, and ended up being that he ended up shechting an animal that had a mum, that had some type of blemish. So retroactively, he shechted on Shabbos, not for a carbon. Now, on that we say chayav chatas v'tzarich tamid acher. Number one, he's chayav chatas. He has to bring a sin offering because he shechted on Shabbos by mistake. So that's a transgression which would be a karis if it was done intentionally. Once it's done unintentionally, it reverts to achatas, the sin offering. V'tzarich tamid acher. Of course, you have to bring another tamid because this tamid was blemished. It was this tamid was blemished, and therefore it cannot fulfill the obligation of the tamid. But at the end of the day, what did the kohen do wrong? He took the wrong animal, but he was attempting to do a mitzvah. So why is lulav and why is eating the wrong bird, that you get a pass on because you're busy doing a mitzvah? But in our case, when he took the wrong animal and he shechted the wrong animal, he slaughtered the wrong animal, you have to bring a chatas because you slaughtered on Shabbos. What's the difference? So Amrlei bar minei dahudaha itmar Allah. Amram Shmuel bar Chasai, Amrav Amnuna, Saba, Amrav Yitzchak bar Yishan, Amrav Huna, Amrav, all these different, in the name of all these different sages. At the end of the day, we're on the last line before the Mishnah. We claim, for example, Shiviu Milishka She'ene Muvukarin. This time, the problem was that this priest, what he did is that he made a mistake. Not only did it's not that he was so busy doing a mitzvah that he got messed up, that he forgot and he took the wrong animal. It's that he didn't make a mistake in the mitzvah. Because Allah is that you're supposed to go ahead and there were special rooms which where the inspected animals were, and there were special rooms where the animals waiting to be inspected were. And it's not that he did something unintentionally. He should have been more focused and more aware that he was walking into the wrong room. At this point, this is more closer to negligence than a mistake. So therefore, he's chayav. Says the Mishnah. We're on the Mishnah on Membeis Amud Aleph on 42a. The kabels isha miyad bina or miyad baila. A wife or a mother could take from the hands the lulav and esrog from the hands of her son and the hands of her husband. And you can return the lulav to water on Shabbos. Now, the Gemara's first question is going to be, now, the halakha is that you could return, usually you're not supposed to, the halakha is that you could return the lulav, which is sort of alive, you could place it back into water on Shabbos. That's the halakha. Now, why are we saying that a mother could take from the hands of her son, or a wife could take from the hands of her husband? That's the Gemara's first question. We'll see that in a minute. Why are we focusing on that? Well, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the Shabbos machzirin. Rabbi Yehuda writes that on Shabbos, one is able to go ahead and return the lulav into water so it doesn't become dried out. B'yom tov meisifin. On Yom Tov you're allowed to add water. U'b'moed machlifin. And on Chol HaMoed, on intermediate days, you're allowed to go ahead and switch over the water entirely. Katan hayidua l'nanea, a child that knows how to shake, chayiv b'lulav. At that point, he's chayiv in the lulav. Okay, says Gemara. Pshita, it's obvious. Of course, what are we trying to learn by saying that a mother is able to accept the lulav from her son? Now the same, I might think, chayil v'ishes lav bas chayuvihi. I might think that since midaraisa on a biblical level, women are not obligated in the mitzvah of lulav and esrog. I might think that perhaps it's muksa for her. That these items, just like for us, that now that we don't take lulav and esrog on Shabbos, the lulav and esrog is usually muksa. It's set aside. Anything that has some value to it, that's expensive, is a type of a muksa. So therefore, just like for us on Shabbos, it's muksa. For a woman is not obligated in the mitzvah anyway, perhaps it's muksa for entire Yom Tov. The third, then it's being taught to us. No, it's not muksa for her and is permitted.
Now the husband and the son shouldn't be anywhere. They shouldn't be holding it.
Or so I'm saying in a case. So we learned. We'll see in the next parak, which is coming up soon, that we would talk about taking the lulav on Shabbos, and that's how it starts. That's how it all starts. It all starts like on Shabbos. And back then they used to take it on Shabbos. We don't. Back then they used to take it on Shabbos. So therefore, I might think on Shabbos, or even on Yom Tov then, right? This case is even on Yom Tov. Just like for us on Shabbos, it's muksa. But for her, on Yom Tov, it's also muksa, perhaps. And we say, no, since she's not obligated to take it, but she still fulfills, she still gets char, she still gets reward, and she still gets a mitzvah for shaking it, therefore it's permitted. Now, on that, we go on to the next piece of the Mishnah. Katan hedur l'neneah, a child that knows how to shake, and he's obligated to shake. Tanar Rabbanan. Now, we're going to go through all different ages when it comes to different mitzvahs. Tanar Rabbanan. Katan hedur l'neneah, chai blulav. The Brisa starts as follows: a katan, a child that knows how to shake a lulav, at that point, he's obligated to in lulav. That's atef, if he knows how to place upon himself clothing. Chayiv b'tzitzis, he's obligated on tzitzis. Lishmar, if he knows how to watch, meaning he's able to, he's cognitive in the idea that he shouldn't bring items to certain places. He knows how to watch over items. Tefillin, Lishmar tefillin, he knows how to properly watch tefillin. Aviv lekeach l'ay tefillin. His father should give him tefillin. Idei l'daber, when he learns how to talk. Aviv lamdei Torah v'kir kriyishma. His father should start teaching him Torah and should start teaching him kriyishma. Torah mahi, what's Torah? Rav Hamnuna, Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Merasha kilas Yaakov, you start teaching that the Torah is an inheritance to all of us. Kriyishma, mahi pasuk rishon Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hayidua lishmor gufay. Once he knows how to watch himself from becoming impure, Eichlin al gufay taharis. At that point, something which is body touch, we will not say that it's impure. A little child, a toddler, we understand he doesn't have to watch what he touches. Back in the day, when they had to eat things in a state of purity, if a toddler would touch food, we would automatically assume that's impure. Once the child grows up enough to watch himself a little bit, then we'll say that anything that his body touched is not going to be impure. And the hands is the next level. Once he knows how to watch his hands and not place his hands everywhere, we will say anything his hands touched, we will not assume will be impure. When he knows how to start answering questions, we'll start asking him, by the way, are you pure or are you impure? And if he answers, I do not know, if this item that we're in doubt, if it's pure and impure, at this point, if it's in a private domain, if it's a doubt, it will say that it's impure. In a public domain, we'll say that it's pure. This is a general idea when it comes to the laws of purity and impurity. Anytime we have a doubt, in a private domain will be stringent, and a public domain will be pure. We'll be lenient and say that it's pure. Haidea lifreis kapav. If he knows how to go ahead and stretch his hands, and we're talking about a kohen, a priest. If he knows how to go ahead and do the priest and do the right way to go ahead and fulfill the priestly blessing, at that point, we start giving him a portion of truma from the granary. At that point, he starts getting truma as a kohen. We turn to the top of Amid Beis, 42b. Haidu lishchait. Once we let him go ahead, and once he knows how to shaft, then we allow ourselves to eat from his shchita, from his slaughtering. Now, Amrav Huna, Ushagadol Oimid Al Gab. On this, there's a condition that we'll eat from his slaughter, on condition that there's an adult standing on top of him, making sure that he cut properly. Now, just to point out, the question is, why in this case do we no longer trust him? Every other case till now, we were trusting him, and we didn't have someone watching him at all, every second. The answer is, when it comes to shechita, it's a little different, because an animal is muchzik that it's the isser. It's an animal is in a state, when we start off, is in a state of, it's alive, so it's forbidden, you can't eat it. In order to get it out of that state, that is much harder. Shechita is essentially getting an animal that was forbidden and making it permitted. Now, every other case till now, that wasn't the case. Every case down, everything was permitted necessarily. There's no case that this is forbidden. Like the case of purity and impurity, everything was permitted. Now we just trust them that nothing went wrong, right? In this case, everything has to go right in order to make it permitted. Therefore, it's muchzak be'isser. It's set in isser. Therefore, it's much harder. The trust level is not enough to trust a child to go ahead and get an animal out of a state of being forbidden. Therefore, you have to stand on top of it. It's much harder. Yachol, we continue. Yachol le'achol kazayis dagan. Once he's able to eat a kazayis, an amount of an olive of grain. At that point, one has to say any dvarim shebekdusha, and someone wants to say a holy word, daven, pray, anything like that. You have to stay away from his excrement and from his urine at least 4 ames. Before that, a child, an infant that doesn't eat anything, one does not. Amar of Chisda, Chisda says not only in this case a toddler that can eat a kizayis of grain has to be able to eat a kizayis of grain also in this time span of achilas pras, which is about 9 minutes. Amar of Chia Brei Rav Yovi ubegadol, an adult let's say an adult is not able to eat for whatever the reason is. He physically cannot eat so much grain at once. So therefore, I might say if you can't eat a grain the size of an olive within the achilas pras, within a short time span, I might think that his urine excrement I don't have to stay away from. Now we say he does. The chesiv, an adult, no matter what he eats, it will be a problem because it writes the more knowledge you gain, the more disgusted you become. So therefore, we learn from there, an adult, no matter what he eats, you do have to stay away 4 hours. Yochel, I think le'echol kazayis sli. Now, yochel le'echol kazayis sli. Once he's able to go ahead and eat a kazayis, an olive worth of roasted meat, sheichtin alav as a pesach. At that point, he could be counted in on the chabura. The way they worked with the Karban Pesach was that you only shechted, you had to be counted in before the shechita. When we set aside the animal, we knew the count, and if it's a large group, you made sure to get a large animal. For small, we got a small animal, and the only people who were counted in were able to partake in the eating of the Karban Pesach. So at this point, this child could partake together with the chabura, with the group. Shnemar ishlefi achlai, each person according to his ability to eat. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ach yachal levarer achila. Now, Rabbi Yehuda threw in another clause. When it came to the Karban Pesach, we just didn't hand out, we didn't let the children eat the meat unless they knew the importance of what they were doing, unless they understood what meat is. Now, he had to tell the difference. You have to give him a stone and he had to throw it away. You have to give him a walnut and he had to eat it. There had to be some type of some intelligence when it came to eating the Karban Pesach. Yeah, we were by the parak. We ended the parak. Hadron Allah, Lulav Hagaiza. Okay, Lulav Varava. We're up to new parak. Then Beis on Beis. Lulav. And then we're going to go. This parak starts off talking about the practicalities of taking the lulav and the arava. Okay, lulav arava shisha v'shiva. The lulav the arava. Some years you take it 6 days, and some years you take it 7 days. Because there are times when Shabbos is daicha, and or places rather, and times in history, right? So there are places and years that there are certain years that Shabbos will be daicha Yom Tov, and you will take it in years that you won't. And we'll see that if Shabbos falls on the first day of Yom Tov, then you take it even on Shabbos for all 7. If it falls out after the first day, then you take it for 6. The rejoicing and the singings is all 8. Even Shemini Atzeres. Sukkah v'Nisuch Hamayim Shiva. You're obligated to sit in a sukkah. And the Nisuch Hamayim festivities, or rather, it's not the festivities part, the actual pouring of the water that they did only on the Mizbeach, which they only did on Sukkot, is all 7 days. Chalil Chamisha V'Shisha, the flute and the celebration with instruments and fire and dancing, that was dependable 5 or 6, depending if Shabbos, if the first day of Yom Tov ended up being a Shabbos, then you had 6 days of Chol Hamoed. So therefore, you had 6 days of celebration. But if Shabbos was on Chol Hamoed, or back then they didn't have 2 days of Yom Tov, they had 1 day of Yom Tov, or they were in Eretz Yisrael, so they had 1 day of Yom Tov. Therefore, if Shabbos was on Chol Hamoed, then you only get 5 days that you're allowed to play the flute and instruments. Lulav Shiva Ketzad. Now the Gemara is going to go, not the Gemara, the Mishnah does it. The Lulav says, how do you get 7 days of Lulav straight? Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag Shechol Yis B'Shabbos Lulav Shiva. The first day of Yom Tov ends up being Shabbos, then it's a da'araisa to take the Lulav. It's a minat Torah. It's a mitzvah minat Torah. Therefore, it will override Shabbos. V'shar kol hayamim shisha. But the rest of the years, when Shabbos falls out on the rest of the days, then if it falls out on Chol Hamoed, then at that point it's no longer a Torah obligation. It's only rabbinic, and it's not going to override Shabbos. Therefore, you only take the Lulav 6 days. Arava Shiva Ketzah. How do you get 7 days of that Rava? Now, when we say that Rava, I'm pretty sure it means we're referring to when they went around. Yeah, Rashi writes that the Beis Hamikdash, they took the Lulav, the Kahanim took the Lulav, and they went around the Mizbeach daily. Kahanim took the Arava and the willow, and they went around the Beis Hamikdash daily. We'll get to that towards the end of the Sukkah. But now Arava, how does that work out? That Arava Shiva Ketzah. How do you get 7 days of Arava? Yom Shvi Shel Arava Shechal Yis B'Shabbos. If the first day of if the 7th day of Arava, Hashanah Rabbah, falls out on Shabbos, and even then, if Hashanah Rabbah was on Shabbos, then we would go ahead and we would walk around with the Arava on Shabbos. Now, I think according to our calendar, Hashanah Rabbah never falls out on Hashanah Rabbah never falls out on Shabbos. I assume not, because I never remember Hashanah Rabbah on Shabbos. So anyway, but back then, when it went according to the witnesses of the moon, anything could happen. Therefore, there are times when Hashanah Rabbah could fall on Shabbos. In that case, they would, the seventh day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, they would take the Arava and walk around the Mizbeach on Shabbos. Arava Shiva. V'shar kol yom shisha. But if Shabbos falls out on any other day, then that day we will not take the Arava, and therefore there's only 6 that year. Mitzvahs Lulav Ketzad. The Shabbos. How do you take the mitzvah of, how does it work with having Lulav on Shabbos? Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag Shechol Yis B'Shabbos Melichin Es Lulavein L'Harabayis. We have a practical problem. You can't carry, right? So how do you fulfill the obligation of Lulav and Esrog if you can't carry it to Shul? You can't carry it to the Beis Hamikdash. So this is how they did it. So on the first day of the Chag, the first day of Yom Tov, if the first day of Yom Tov fell out on Shabbos, Melichin Es Lulavein L'Harabayis. Before Yom Tov, everyone would take the Lulav and Esrog and bring it to Temple Mount. V'chazanin mikabel mehem, and the attendants would take it from them. And they would place them on the benches surrounding Harabayis. And the elderly people who were worried about being pushed when it came to get the lulav, they placed it in the special room. And the attendants would tell everyone who was bringing the lulav and esrog as follows: Now, there was no way that once people brought the lulav and esrog, that they would get their own the next day, because it was too many people. So the attendants what they would do is they would teach everyone, you're going to pick up a random lulav and esrog, and I want you to say that the one that you brought yesterday you own. Whoever picks it up, I give it to them as a present, and therefore everyone should have it as their own. Everyone should own it with a matana, in order to fulfill the obligation of it has to be your own. The next day, mashkimim uban, they woke up early, and they came. And the attendants would throw the lulav and esrog, and everyone would catch it. And
That sounds dangerous.
yeah, it is dangerous. When the Bezdin saw that it's getting dangerous because you have these projectiles of a lulav flying through the air, and everyone's pushing each other. The halacha changed, and he said, no more on Harabayis, leave it in your house, and take it in the morning, and then come to Harabayis, and you won't be shaking lulav on Harabayis.
But they still leave us with a problem, assuming I understand what problem we're on. Maybe I'll verse myself here. The first day of Sukkah can fall on Shabbat.
Yes.
So what do we do then? They're saying you leave it home. We just leave it at home because we still have that Torah level obligation.
So take it at home.
Oh, shake it at home.
Yeah. Before you come.
That's okay. That's good enough. All right.
You're right. You're still fulfilling the obligation.
All right. Okay.
Oh, you don't have a.
I ran out of text.
You ran out of text. Is it around number 2?
I think that's it.
It's number 1.
Yeah. It's right on top. Wasn't it around? I might be over there.
Here you go.
Oh, that was stepping up. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The 42. The first or second page, I assume. Oh no, that's the full text. Yeah, so it's the new fourth paragraph, 42b. Okay. And now we have the question. Now we start the Gemara. Amai tiltu ba'almahu b'litchi Shabbos. We had a question that why is it that we don't take the lulav all, even though it's rabbinic? It's true, even though the mitzvah is only rabbinic, and we're not talking about the first day of Yom Tov. Why is it that when Shabbos falls out on any other day of Yom Tov besides the first day, we don't take the lulav and esrog? Now, it's true that's not midaraisa. We understand that taking the lulav on the other days of Yom Tov besides the first day is only a rabbinic decree, and Shabbos is midaraisa. But if you think about it, what is the actual problem of taking lulav and esrog? So our only issue is tilto ba'alma. The Gemara writes, it's muksa. Now muksa is dirabanan. So we have a dirabanan and a dirabanan. So why don't we have the positive dirabanan override the negative dirabanan? The negative dirabanan is that you're not allowed to move muksa. The positive mitzvah is that to shake the lulav and esrog. So why can't we shake the lulav and esrog on any other day?
If the positive and negative go head to head, why don't we rule in favor of the positive?
We usually do. Asay and always asay. Asay is daichales asay. Usually the positive mitzvah overrides the negative mitzvah. Amarabba, and that we say, Gezeira Hashem yitlanu biyadai. We are afraid. It's a decree. They might take it in your hand. Vayelech etel baki lumay, and you might go to an expert to learn if it's kosher, to learn how to shake, whatever the case is. And we're afraid to end up walking 4 amas in the public domain. Behind the taima, the shofar. Behind the taima, the Megillah. That's the reason for shofar. And that's also the reason for the Megillah, why we do not read it on Shabbos. Again, because especially a shofar, which is the araisa to blow. And the same thing with the Megillah. Megillah, what's so bad about reading Megillah on Shabbos? All it is a scroll. We learn from the Torah on Shabbos. The answer is because Megillah is special and it's unique. It's only done once a year, so I might have to go learn how to learn it, as opposed to really leaning, which is weekly. Now, if so, Yom Rishanami. Now we are in the state right now where if the first day ends up being Shabbos, we do take the lulav. Unlike how we act nowadays. Nowadays it's different. We'll come to that later on. But at least we are in the mindset right now. Shabbos, if Yom Tov is the first day, if Sukkot is the first day of Yom, if Sukkot is the first day of Sukkot, is Shabbos, we do take the lulav everywhere. And then we ask, so therefore, why is it we made a decree that on every other day of Yom Tov, we don't, if it's Shabbos, we don't take the lulav because we're afraid we're going to carry it. So why is the first day any different? And that we answer, well, because it's true. The first day, if you look in the Mishnah, the rabbis changed it, and we ended up leaving it in the house. So there's no worry about the first day, because the first day, the halacha is that you have to leave it in your house. No one's going to go out and carry it. Now, hatenach achar takana. Okay, that helps after the decree in the Mishnah, where they didn't bring it to the Har Bayis because it was getting dangerous. But what about before the decree? Before that decree, they carried it. Why were we not afraid that you might come to carry in the Rishus Harabim, and we can't say that it's permitted to carry in the Rishus Harabim for the mitzvah because they're not fulfilling the mitzvah by being in Rishus Harabim, right? You're walking to Har Bayis, so just why don't you always have the halakha? You should shake it in the house. You can't say that the positive mitzvah of shaking lulav overrides the negative mitzvah of carrying on Shabbos, because you don't have to carry on Shabbos in order to shake the lulav. You could find another way to do it. Just don't take it out of your house. So what are we going to do about that? Why was it permitted to carry? Why was it permitted before that takana? Before the decree you had to do it in your house. Why weren't the rabbis afraid that on the first day of Yom Tiv, which is Shabbos, even though it's true it's a da'araisa to shake the lulav, we should have been afraid that you might come to carry in Dal and Mr. Shasarabim. So let Rishon the Aisa min HaTorah bevul like Gazru. Therefore, like this, on the first day of Yom Tiv, where it's min HaTorah, we didn't go ahead and we couldn't go ahead and make the gezerah. We couldn't make the rabbis didn't want to override the daraisa. Therefore, they said it's permitted to take wherever you are. Just hopefully you don't carry. Then and then on the other days though that it's not min HaTorah, therefore the rabbis went ahead and made a decree. Now, if that is so, ha'idinami. Nowadays, why do we not go ahead and so nowadays why do we not go ahead and actually shake the lulav on Yom Tiv, on the first day of Yom Tiv, right? Because we don't carry on the first day of Yom Tiv. So the inanami, if it's true that they did not make originally they never made a gezerah, they never made a decree for the first day of Yom Tiv, why do we not have the same halacha? Why can't we not have the same halacha? And we should go ahead and be able to and shake it on Shabbos. The answer is because we're not experts on the month. So perhaps the day which we decide. Remember, we always have a suffix. It's 2 days. We're not sure. So maybe the day we decide Sukkah is not really Sukkah. Ends up being a regular Shabbat, which is not Yom Tiv. You end up shaking it, and so we're afraid that you might end up you might be shaking on the. It's not really Shabbos. Now, but what about us in Eretz Yisrael? Meaning, the Gemara who's asking the question is that at least in Eretz Yisrael, when they have 1 day Yom Tiv, they know which day is what. So therefore, they know for sure the first day of Yom Tiv is Shabbos. If the first day of Yom Tiv falls on a Shabbos, they know for a fact that it's Yom Tiv. Therefore, they should go shake it. And he said that's true. You're right. That was halacha in Eretz Yisrael. Everyone brought their lulav on the first day of Yom Tov to Har Bayis before Shabbos, and they shook it on Shabbos. Now, v'tani idach lebeis haknesses, and we have another brisa that teaches us. We had this previously that they used to bring it to shul. So we have one Mishnah that tells you that we brought it to Har Bayis, and not only that, we had another Mishnah that said that a brisa that whenever the first day of Yom Tov landed on Shabbos, they would bring the lulav and esrog before Shabbos to shul. Shema mina, kamazman shebeis hamikdash kaim, kamazman shebeis hamikdash kaim, shema mina. That, so we see from here, after all this, we see that it's true. In Eretz Yisrael, they did bring, where they knew which day was what, they would bring their lulav and esrog to the Beis Hamikdash, to shul, or the Beis Hamikdash. That ends our conversation for today. Meaning, at the end of the day, we so originally asked, what's the big deal about shaking the lulav and esrog during on a Shabbos which is not on the first day of Yom Tov? So we said we're afraid you're going to carry it. So that we said to the first day also. So we said the first day was it's a midaraisa. The rabbis were not really willing to go ahead and make a decree to override a daraisa. The rest of the days they were willing, but the first day they were not. Now, yeah, that's it. I think we're going to end there. Now we'll still have to go to talk about what's with us nowadays, but we really already see that in outside Eretz Yisrael, there's no we already see that there's already outside Yisrael because we don't know the right days where we don't take it the first day altogether. But the question then is, what's with Eretz Yisrael? Why is it that Eretz Yisrael people do not in Eretz Yisrael the halachas? You still don't take the food, right? First, don't. In fact, if in Eretz Yisrael, if the first day of Yom Tov is Shabbos, there are people who only buy the lulav and esrog late to Shabbos. They don't buy it before Sukkot.
Oh.
Because they still have an extra day to go look for a better lulav, a better esrog, get a good deal. So Mighty Shabbos, the shuk in Yerushalayim, in Meisharim Geula, the big Sukkah, is open late to Shabbos on Sukkot. If the first day of Shabbos is, I remember going there. It was when I was in Eretz Yisrael. I went there. I had 2 day Yom Tov, so I couldn't. I thought it was amazing. The Sukkah's open on Sukkot. So.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
Okay. See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you.